Hey everybody, Chaz Mulder, Mayor of the City of Columbia, coming to you for our virtual town hall. Hopefully you've been able to follow these virtual town halls over the last several weeks where you've heard from Murray Regional Medical Center, you've heard from our city manager, our chiefs of fire and police and parks and recreation. We've also heard from our marketing director, our tourism director, and just a couple days ago, we heard from our wastewater director and also public works director. Today, I'm especially excited for this next virtual town hall in our series of town halls because we're going to hear from the faces of some of our well-known businesses in town. And of course, we know in the city of Columbia that small businesses are the lifeblood of our community. We also know that during the last several weeks, small businesses have taken a huge hit as a result of the crisis. And fortunately, we're now seeing some glimmers of hope as the small businesses are now being put in a position to open back up. As you know, April 27th was the date that restaurants could begin to open their doors. Then April 29th allowed retail operations to open their doors. And of course, May 1st, gyms will be able to open. And then next week, May 6th, hair salons and barbershops and additional businesses will also be able to open. So today, we're really excited to have representatives from the restaurant industry and also from the retail industry. You can see them on your screen. They need no introduction, but we're going to allow them to introduce themselves as well. We have Andy Marshall, the owner of Pucketts, and we'll be seeing and hearing from Ricky Terry, the general manager from Pucketts of Columbia, here momentarily. We also have Bonnie Esslinger, the owner of Blue 32 Vintage Marketplace, and Catherine York, the owner of Smith & York Company. So we'll start with Andy. Of course, everybody knows Andy Marshall came to Columbia, brought his franchise, so to speak, to Columbia around 2009, 2010. Columbia is one of several locations for Andy's business, and Andy is truly a leader, not just in the restaurant industry for the Middle Tennessee region, but really for the small business industry as a whole. He's truly been a leader throughout this crisis. Just yesterday, he was highlighted by Governor Lee for setting an example for restaurant owners and how they should sort of respond and react in this crisis. And he's also been featured in other publications, national and even international. And so he's our own sort of local celebrity today. I also read with great interest that Andy's comments the other day stated that he's been just as focused on his associates as he has been on his customer, which I think is a testament to the type of person that Andy is. So Andy, thanks for joining us today. We're glad to have you here. We're glad to have your business in the city of Columbia, but give us just a little bit of an overview about your business, Pucketts, and the enterprise that it is.
Yeah, so Pucketts is part of our family of restaurants. A. Marshall Hospitality operates 9 restaurants across Middle Tennessee and into East Tennessee. Pucketts being the largest portion of that. We have 6 Pucketts. And then we have Scout's Pub and Americana Tap House and Deacon's New South. We operate with about 650 employees on a normal basis. Things aren't normal now, but we're slowly getting our employees back to work.
Well, we see one of your featured employees just took a seat here, Ricky Terry, the general manager for your Columbia location. Ricky, we're sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're so glad that you could join us now from the 3rd floor of Columbia City Hall.
That's
Ricky,
right.
we'll come to you in just a few minutes to sort of tell us how the Columbia location specifically is operating. Let's move now to Bonnie Esslinger, the owner and operator of Blue 32 Vintage Marketplace. Bonnie is another one of those individuals when I think of just innovators and entrepreneurial-minded people in town. Bonnie's name comes to my mind. Of course, Blue 32 started in 2015 over on Walker Street, just a couple blocks away from her current location where they moved in 2016 in downtown Columbia, where they have over 25 vendors and just a real fun store. If you haven't been to Blue 32, I would encourage you to. But Bonnie, thanks for joining us today also. Tell us a little bit about Blue 32 for those who might not know.
I think you may have gotten some old information off of our off of Google or something, because we're up to 55 vendors now. We have
25. Good catch. Thank you.
Yeah. In 2016, we moved to 108 West 7th Street, right across from Southern Trade Steakhouse. And we have 3 floors, 12,000 square feet. Like I said, 55 vendors doing vintage. We have boutique clothing, jewelry, all kinds of different artisans. It's just a little something for everyone.
And you were able to open up your doors effective April 29th, which was yesterday. And we'll get to sort of what that looked like for you here in a couple minutes. First, let's go to our last but not least, Catherine York is the newest business owner on the screen today. Catherine is the owner of Smith and York Company. She and her husband, Adam, joined our business community in 2019. In fact, as I understand it, today is their 11th month anniversary being in downtown Columbia on the corner of West 7th Street in the public square. And their store operates as a modern home boutique. And if you haven't been to Smith and York Company, certainly you're missing out. We would encourage you to. But Catherine, thank you as well for joining us, and tell the viewers out there who might not have been into Smith and York what your store is about, and just a little bit about yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're obviously very new, still trying to navigate so much just from a new business and new community, and we're just so thankful to be here. But our store really is a home gift. We specialize really in serving items from bowls and boards and fun accessories for the kitchen, and really entertaining as a whole. We do a lot with gifts, planters, and you name it, from purses and jewelry to accessories. So definitely a lot of gift options as well.
And what I really like about both Blue 32 and Smith and York is the diversity of what it has to offer. Really, if there's you can't go in there and not find what you're looking for, because there's so much, regardless of what you may be in the hunt for. And so that's certainly something that both of your stores have in common. Ricky, let me go to you now as the general manager of Pucketts here at the Columbia store, just to talk about, of course, we've been through what we hope to have been the worst of the COVID-19 crisis in terms of the medical pandemic, but also the economic hit that we have taken and that we know that we're trying to dig out of. But what was Pucketts' approach that it sort of employed during the crisis, and just in terms of trying to remain viable, remain in business, and continue to operate at a time that was unprecedented for all of us?
Our first approach we took was going straight to goes and making curbside available, and then deliveries. And Columbia jumped on that opportunity, and I was really excited to see a lot of the guests coming intentionally saying they were coming to shop for local restaurants, and they were picking different ones each week. But we jumped on the to-go and car-side delivery and just did our best to capitalize on that opportunity.
Did you notice that a lot of people were taking advantage of those curbside opportunities?
I feel like that they did. It was really introduced. We weren't heavy to go in Columbia because everybody came in to enjoy the restaurant. So we did increase our footprint for to-go delivery and the car side.
And one of the things, Andy, I noticed in some comments that you've made, really traditionally curbside pickup, at least in Columbia, and I suspect this is true for your other locations, is generally a very small percentage of your overall business. Yeah. So I suspect there was some adapting that was required, but perhaps if there's some silver linings, maybe your curbside and to-go will be something that will continue to increase even after we're out of this crisis.
Well, I think it's going to have to, because you're just going to have certain segments of the society right now that are still going to be uncomfortable about getting out, whether they're elderly or whether they have these underlying conditions and they want to be ultra conservative with getting out. We totally get that. So we think the curbside and the to-go is going to linger much longer than we probably anticipated on the front end. And you're right. We didn't have, wasn't a big portion of our business before. It was, below 2%. Most cases, it was 1% of our sales. So we couldn't survive on it. We hadn't been able to survive. We've just kind of what we call kick the can down the road until we can get to this point where we're operating again.
And now you're ready for your roaring comeback for sure. Bonnie, let me go to you now, just in terms of how you were able to manage through the last 4 to 6 weeks. Obviously, total disruption to a retail operator. But you also did some things and created some some new sort of efforts and blaze some new trails. So talk about what Blue 32 was able to do.
Well, I felt like when we first shut down, we were just constantly throwing things at the wall and hoping that something stuck. We did, with First Fridays, we did a major gift card giveaway and encouraged people to buy gift cards to different local businesses to try to inject some cash that way. And that was great. And the community really replied to that, responded to that very well. But the big thing that worked for us as a business was our Facebook auctions. We tried different things selling through our website. We did a lot of curbside pickup and that kind of thing. But the one thing that really worked well for us and has kind of helped us limp along to this point is our Facebook auctions. We were doing those twice a week, and they've been so popular that we will continue to do those every Sunday night.
Very
I was
cool.
a purchaser of the Facebook auction.
Oh, thank you.
With a plug there for sure. Catherine, let's go to you now. Obviously, y'all had to make some modifications and adapt and sort of be nimble and be quick, recognizing the uncertainty, but also recognizing you were brand new, so you were sort of just creating your identity as a new business, and perhaps had some even greater pressures being so new. But obviously, y'all did some things as well, and frankly, like Bonnie, social media was a big part of that. But talk about sort of what y'all were able to do to manage through the last several weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So the day before we had the closure, we were signing a contract with a local digital company about getting a website up and going. We had a website that we just kind of threw together before we opened. It was something we've kind of talked about throughout the past, 10 months and 11 months. And when all this happened, we were like, oh my goodness, we don't have an online store, which we hadn't necessarily needed before. We hadn't offered shipping, anything like that. We really were just focusing on who we were kind of, as a brick and mortar store. So we realized that when we can't open a door, we were quickly like, what are we going to do? And for us, we also had, because we're very much so, Adam and I, if you come in our shop, you see Adam and I probably 90% of the time. We're definitely a family-run business. And so
and your son, right? Liam.
And Liam, that's where I'm going. So when all this happened and Columbia Academy closed as well, we had a 4-year-old. So full-time, we have him full-time, but he was in the house with us full-time. And we were kind of, I especially was pulled between how do we do this with the store and how do we have him? And it was such a blessing because as we started putting product out through Instagram, we were like, hey, well, let's just deliver it. Let's just send it out. We have a pretty good following on Instagram and Facebook. And a lot of our following knew us before we opened a store and knew who we were. And a lot of those are in Nashville and Franklin and really all through Middle Tennessee. And we realized that one thing that we really had on our side more than anything was time. We had a lot of time on our hands. So we started making deliveries. And for us, over 80% of the sales we've had since we closed have been items that we have delivered. And that has been furniture. We delivered a sofa to Franklin, because that was purchased this fast, which we were so thankful for. And we probably wouldn't have normally offered delivery before that. So that has been one of the biggest things for us. It's something that, as Bonnie said, with what she's doing with her things on Sunday night, we will continue to do delivery. And we're just kind of right now looking at what does that look like. This morning we had a couple deliveries in Franklin and Leaper's Fork, and we've been able to take our store into homes and into areas that people have not actually been into our brick and mortar store, and yet they are still shopping through us because we can bring that to them. So that's been a huge blessing.
Yeah, and that's one thing just to compliment both Bonnie and Catherine, that I've noticed that it seems like those who were the most innovative during this process from a retail perspective, and y'all two are certainly at the top of that list, are the ones that are best positioned going forward. And so I'm real pleased to hear about some of the things that you did during the process, because I think that's going to position y'all as we come out of this to continue with some momentum to sort of get back sooner rather than later. And I really have enjoyed watching what you've done on social media, and again, recognizing, we are in downtown Columbia, all three of these businesses, but that spans more than just the city of Columbia, and the consumer now is outside of Columbia and also the county limits. Let me go now to Andy on some of the guidelines, because whether or not you're a restaurateur or you're in the retail industry, these sort of the new normal that we see now is requiring some new guidelines. And Andy, you and your team have definitely been at the forefront of a lot of that, which is why you got the shout out from the governor the other day. But talk about what your sort of obligations are as a restaurant, and what y'all are doing to make sure y'all are adhering to those guidelines.
All right, so there's two things working here. There's, the governor's guidelines, but then there were our own guidelines we put in place. I was on the governor's committee for restaurants, so a lot of our guidelines were adopted into that messaging. So there's a lot of overlap. But we also felt like the guidelines were going to be the baseline. That would be the minimum that anybody could achieve to get the doors back open, whether you're fast food, drive-through, or dine-in. But we, as a dine-in restaurant, have taken the biggest hit. So we wanted to go above and beyond those to increase consumer confidence. That was what we felt like was the most important thing, was safety for our employees, safety for our customers, and then build their confidence back to come more in a more regular basis. So, it's all the things that restaurants are scrutinized on anyway. We've long been regulated on health, so these type of guidelines are not anything new to us. We're just doing them more often. The hand washing, the glove changing. We're having to wear masks now, which is not a normal thing, but it's temporary, right? At some point, we'll come out of the mask, and not every associate will have to wear gloves, just the ones handling food, and we'll get back to some normal procedures. But right now, all those are amped up. The spacing of tables, only 50% of our tables can be in use. That's assuming they're at least 6 feet apart. If they're within 6 feet, you're closing down the table. So that 50% occupancy right now is a tough one from the standpoint of we can't make money operating at 50% capacity. But it's a step towards getting to maybe 75% capacity and then 100% capacity. But none of it matters until consumer confidence comes back and starts coming through those doors. So we're doing all these health precautions, all these spacing of tables and closing down the bar seats and things like that for a temporary measure for a long-term gain.
50% is better than where you were, but it'd still be nice to get a little bit better than that.
Yeah, we hope that if we all do this and do it right, we'll get there quicker.
Right. Of course, we've seen a lot of this is about everybody doing their part, and definitely Pucketts, you've been there for sure on that. Ricky, just being on the ground here in Columbia at the restaurant, which opened its doors for breakfast on Monday morning, pursuant to the guidelines. What's your sense? I mean, do you get the feeling that people are comfortable with sort of what y'all done and the way y'all are handling this?
Yeah, so far they have been very comfortable and very impressed with all of the actions that we're taking. Nobody feels like it's not enough or too much. It's there have been very good response from the people with what we are doing. It's good.
Good. Bonnie, let me go to you and transition back to the retail sector. While y'all don't have some of the requirements that a restaurant obviously would, which handles food and that sort of thing, there are some guidelines for retail. So what is it that y'all are doing, and do you feel like it's adequate, and do you feel comfortable, and do you think your customers feel comfortable?
Well, we've only been open one day, but yesterday was great. It was exactly what you would want, just kind of slow and steady all day long. So we didn't really have to deal with a lot of the social distancing issues, which is mostly what we're doing. A lot of signage up, reminding people to socially distance. Traffic flow, we're lucky enough to have 2 front doors. So we've got one assigned as the entrance and one assigned as the exit. So there's no, too much congestion right there. Where our employees are wearing masks at the register when folks come up. A lot of cleaning going on, just trying to constantly wipe down those surfaces, door handles, the register, buggy handles, things like that. Just being extra cautious.
And recognizing you've only been back open for a day, but you did have some customers yesterday. And what's your sense? I mean, do you feel as though, like Andy said, that they feel confident and feel comfortable about sort of what's going on?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, I mean, a great portion of our customers yesterday didn't even have masks on, but I think this is brand new with our opening the doors back up. So it's going to be those people anyway. If you're really nervous about it, then you're still at home. You
Right.
know. So right now we've got kind of the bold crowd that's ready to get out and shop, and everybody else will slowly trickle in when they see that it's okay.
Yeah, and that's one thing, Andy, I noticed that you've talked about is that, just because we're now back open, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just going to be the floodgates are going to open. And Bonnie, to your point, I mean, you've got some that are going to be at the forefront that were ready to come out yesterday, but you're going to probably also have some that are going to still be timid, which is why presumably some of the social media promotions that are going on and some of the modifications and adaptions that Pucketts is doing are going to continue to be important in the short term, even though you're back open technically. Catherine, what about you? I mean, I know, again, you've been very active on social media, but your doors were open yesterday. And what are you doing as a store owner to make sure you're adhering to the guidelines, and what are you sensing on the ground?
Yeah, one of the things for Adam and I, when we opened our store, one of the main things that we have tried to keep at the forefront of every decision we make is we want whoever walks into our store to feel like as if they were at home, or that they're welcomed, or just feel calm and at ease. Like, we just want to create that type of environment for them. So we, as we were thinking, how are we going to reopen, and what will this look like, and how do we still make it feel like home, our home here, that was so important to us. We're fortunate. You've been in our shop, our layout had kind of already adhered to a lot of it, where it's very much so a circular, you come in and there's like a natural flow. We keep our door open all the time anyway, so we've not had to worry about door handles. We have one door in and out, and it's open constantly, so we get that beautiful view of of Square, and we love hearing the people going back and forth. But yesterday we had people in and out. I will say everyone was very intentional. For those that did come, we knew every person that came in yesterday. They were loyal customers, and they were people who were just ready to get out and to see us. And it was kind of a natural progression in a lot of ways. Even today, we've not had more than 2 to 3 people that were together in period. So it's kind of just, 1 or 2 here, and then it kind of 1 or 2. But yeah, we were definitely following, making sure that there's no more than 10 people total in our store at any time. And, given the guidelines, we also, one thing that we did find also through doing our payment process and stuff through the Instagram sales, is we started using Venmo a lot. We could do PayPal invoice or Venmo. Venmo doesn't have the fees, so we were like, Venmo, please. And one of the things we've kind of implemented is there's like no touch payment anymore. So if you have to put in a credit card, we have a portable machine that can just go in. We don't touch the card. There's no debit. There's no reason to debit unless it's rare that we have someone that only has a debit card, but people can actually from their phone pay us via Venmo right here in the store as well. So it's just like cash. So, a lot less touch points for sure. No door handles. And, most people who come in, a lot of them look with their eyes anyway. So we're not worried about a whole lot of fingers, but we do have hand sanitizer everywhere. So we're still cautious, but
Don't touch until my kids come in and
yeah.
we're ready to take something.
Most people already threaten their kids the minute they walk in. So and then our little 4-year-olds running around, we're very family friendly. We're comfortable with kids for sure here.
Well, the payment form that you talk about seems to be, to me, one of the things that could continue even after this is behind us, because that's, again, another sort of modernized approach, which is what I think, again, some silver linings that we're going to see is that we're sort of adapting, and we're going to find some of these adapting mechanisms are actually going to allow us to be more efficient, overall, cleaner. And those are some good things. Efficiency and cleanliness are things that we don't want to just do away with when this crisis is over. One of the other things too that I hope that y'all have found beneficial is the pretty early on in this process, when curbside began to pick up, the city of Columbia began to dedicate some curbside parking spots for the businesses that wanted to utilize them. And I hope that that's been valuable and perhaps can continue, at least in the short term, as we see curbside continuing to be an ongoing option for folks. So as we sort of start to conclude today, I want to just ask a final question for all of y'all. And Ricky, I'll start with you first. If you had one thing that you could say to your Columbia community, what would it be?
Just thank you for your support. Thank you for caring enough to coming out during the hard time. And we look forward to everyone coming back.
All right, Bonnie, I'll go to you next.
Same thing. A big fat thank you. You guys supported us in so many ways, just shopping for random things off of Instagram and down to the Facebook auctions, everything that we've done. We're just so blessed to be here. We love Columbia. And the other thing I would say is that we've missed you. We love talking to you guys and seeing you in the store, and can't wait to see everybody.
Is that I hear a come on back soon.
Yeah.
Catherine?
The intentionality that we have seen over this past month has truly been moving. I have been part of many towns and great communities, and I've never seen people so intentional as they have. We know a lot of people have bought a lot of things they didn't need. I would say a lot of things they don't need. But, you know, the kindness that's been shown, we've done, like I said, a ton of deliveries. And a lot of the deliveries, probably half of them, I don't know the exact percentage, but were gifts that people had purchased for other people. And we were delivering, and we were writing the notes from them to their loved one or to their teacher, to their who that was. And the kindness that wasn't just shown to us, but to loved ones and other people in the communities. And like I said, even into Franklin and Nashville, it's just so moving. And it's just, I think it's the realization and the humanity behind what really is happening. And it's happening to everyone, not just us as a business or us as a family, but to everyone. And the kindness just goes, so for everyone's experiencing this different, in a different way, in different fashion. And just the kindness that we have seen has been so touching. And we are so, so thankful to be located right here in downtown Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Andy, I'll give you the last word.
Well, for us, you know, me as the owner of the business and knowing Columbia as well as I do, it's just been overwhelming, the support that we've gotten. People that have reached out to me personally, the gift cards that we've sold, you know, early on when we knew nothing about how long this would be, or, you know, our only survival mechanism was calling for people to buy gift cards and please buy them now and use them later, and help us weather this storm. And we actually raised over $35,000 for our employee fund doing that. 20% of every gift card that was sold, we took 20% of that, put it in a fund for our employees that were out of work. And as they're coming back, they're all getting bonuses coming back to work with the generosity of our community. So Columbia is no exception to that. They were special, stepping up, rooting us on, and letting us know that we were loved. So we love you, Columbia.
Well, thank you, Ricky, Catherine, Bonnie, Andy. It's been a pleasure to have y'all. You know, we know that Columbia is a special place. And frankly, I think that y'all are exhibit A to what makes us special, because we are home to small businesses that have a face behind a name. And that's what I love about today, is we're seeing those faces. They are community members. They are family members. They care about the community. They support the community, and there's no question that Columbia is better because of your businesses and what y'all represent. So y'all may be saying thank you to the city of Columbia residents, but I think all of us collectively want to say thank you to all of you for weathering through the storm, and just know that we're here and we're ready to come back to your businesses, and looking forward to when we can have a First Fridays, hopefully sooner rather than later, and celebrate out around the square and have dinner at one of our restaurants around, and go to our plenty shops around, and just know that Columbia is going to be back stronger than before. And that's because of businesses that are represented here today, and businesses that are out around this community that are roaring and ready to go. And so we appreciate all of y'all for joining us today. And we thank you for joining us from your home computer or phone for this virtual town hall with Pucketts and with Smith & York and with Blue 32. We've had a really fun time. I hope that y'all enjoyed this as much as we did. And don't forget to go eat some food and to shop locally, because it'll be with your help that these businesses will continue to move forward in a very viable and prosperous way. So thanks for watching. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks, guys.